Okay, this is lesson or 6.0 lesson 1 day 2 part 2 of the note. So what we're going to be starting with is squaring numbers, and so you're typically going to see it as a number with this exponent of 2. So all that means is you're going to take the number and multiply it by itself. So we'll come to this rule here in a minute when dealing with decimals, but I'll come back to it when we need it. So our first problem is 5 squared. So all that means I'm doing is 5 times 5. And we should know that 5 times 5, or you could use your paper, your grid, and figure out what 5 times 5 is, and that's 25. Our next one is 6 squared. So that's 6 times 6, which is 36. Then we have 10 squared. This is 10 times 10, which is 100. Oh, and I do want to take a quick second to remind you guys, we are not using calculators. Okay, so I know on these first few, they're really quick and easy, and I know you'll be able to come up with an answer without showing work, and that's fine. But we have a few that we're going to come up to that you have to show work, and so I'm definitely going to be able to tell whether or not you guys did it on a calculator. So make sure you're showing me all the work on your notes and all the work on your homework. Okay, our next one is 30 squared, which means I can do 30 times 30. Now some of you would go, oh my goodness, these numbers are huge. But all you have to do is do 3 times 3, and then take your number of zeros that you have and put them at the end. So 3 times 3 is 9, and since I have 2 zeros, I just put 2 zeros at the end. Then I have 80 squared. We do the same thing here. We do 80 times 80, but really you can just do 8 times 8, which is 64, and then put your 2 zeros at the end. Our next one is 12 squared. So this is just 12 times 12. Again, you either know this or you can use your multiplication grid for it, and you get 144. Our next one is 0.4 squared. So again, quite a few would be like, I don't know how to do 0.4 times 0.4. Well, just like before with the zeros, we can actually just do 4 times 4 to get 16. And then our rule up here says, remember that when multiplying decimals, the total number of decimal places in the problem tells the number of decimal places in the answer. So in our problem, we have 1, 2 decimal places. So that means we're going to have 2 numbers after our decimal place in our answer. Since we know 4 times 4 is 16, and we have to have 2 numbers behind our decimal place, those are the 2 numbers behind our decimal place. This is going to be 0.16. If you could not remember this rule, you're more than welcome to work out on the side and actually multiply 0.4 times 0.4. But again, you need to remember that rule with the total number of decimal places in your problem is going to equal to the number of decimal places that need to be in your answer. So here we have 1.2 times 1.2. Oops, I apologize for that mistake there. So we can actually still just do 12 times 12, which we know from before is 144. But in our problem, we have 2 decimal places, here and here. So that means I need 2 numbers behind my decimal in my answer, which means that I can put my decimal right here to make 1.44 so that I still have 2 numbers behind my decimal place. We can do the same thing on part I. It's 0.011 times 0.011. So just like before, we can actually just do 11 times 11, which is 121. But what you need to be careful of is we actually have 6 numbers that need to come after our decimal. And right now with the number 121, if we were to put our decimal right in front, we would only have 3 numbers there. So we actually need to add some zeros. We're going to add 3 zeros here so that I get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 numbers after my decimal place, the same way I had 6 numbers after my decimal place here. Okay, let's go down to letter J. We have 17 squared. So here's where you probably have to start showing, or you will need to start showing some work. So this is really just 17 times 17. So if you remember our multiplication, we'll do 7 times 7, which is 49, carry the 4. We do 1 times 7, which is 7, plus our 4, which is 11. Then when we start a new line, we add a 0. We do 1 times 7 is 7. Then 1 times 1 is 1. And then all we have to do is add these up. So we would get a 9, 8, and 1. So our answer is 189. Or 200, I apologize. This is a 2 right here. 289. That's my fault. Sorry about that. Letter K is 19 squared. So again, we do 19 times 19. We do it the same way we just did this one. So we do 9 times 9 is 81. Carry the 8. 1 times 9 is 9. Plus 8 is 17. We start a new line, so we put a 0. Then we have 1 times 9 is 9. 1 times 1 is 1. Then we add. So we'll get a 1. This is 16, so we carry a 1. And we get a 3. So our answer is 361. If you guys want to go ahead and do part L to try it out, so again, just pause your video, work it out, and then just double check with what I have to make sure you got it right. Oh, I apologize on this one. I forgot to put a 0 first, and then 8, and then 0, then 1. That's my fault. So we get 1,296 here. Okay, then we go to part M, and we have to work out 1.8 times 1.8. And so this is going to work very similar to our row above, except we just have to remember our decimal at the end. So if 8 times 8 is 64, carry the 6. 1 times 8 is 8, plus 6 is going to be 14. Then we bring down a 0. We have 1 times 8 is 8. 1 times 1 is 1. So 4, 12, carry the 1, 3. Now we have to realize we have 2 numbers after our decimal place here, which means I need 2 numbers after my decimal place. So our answer is 3.24. So let's try another one of these. We have 4.7 squared, so it's 4.7 times 4.7. It would help if I could write, I'm sorry. So 7 times 7 is 49. We have 4 times 7 is 28, plus 4 is 32. Bring a 0. 4 times 7 is 28. Carry the 2. 4 times 4 is 16, plus 2 is 18. And then we add. Oh my goodness, I apparently cannot add today. Okay, so we get this number here, and then we notice we have 2 numbers after our decimal place, so I need 2 numbers after my decimal place here. So we get 22.09. So I want you guys to go ahead and try part O on your own. Again, pause the video and then just double check with my work here. So we should get 88.36. And then we have this last section here, and we need to find the area of a square. So if you guys remember, to find the area of a square, we do a side squared. So we get to do 8 squared, which is 8 times 8. It's going to give us 64, and then we need to put our units, and it's going to be centimeters squared. So then Q is going to be 9 squared, or 9 times 9. So that's 81 feet squared. And then here we're going to have 0.7 times 0.7, or 0.7 squared. And we know 7 times 7 is 49. Okay, but then we have to remember that we have 2 numbers behind our decimal place. And so we need 2 numbers behind our decimal place here, so it's going to be 0.49 meters squared. So now let's move on to cubing, and cubing is very similar. We have a number to a power, but this time it's going to be to the 3rd power, which means we take that number times itself. We're multiplying 3 times here. So let's go here to 5 cubed. We know this is going to be 5 times 5 times 5. So you guys might already know the first set. 5 times 5 is going to give me 25, but I still need to multiply by another 5. Now some of you might know what this is, but if you don't, you can go over to the side and do 25 times 5. And so we know 5 times 5 is 25, carry the 2, 2 times 5 is 10, plus the 2, so that's going to give me 125 as my answer. Part B is very similar. We'll do 6 times 6 times 6. Okay, so you probably already know that 6 times 6 is 36. So then we'll go off to the side and do 36 times 6. So we know 6 times 6 is 36, carry the 3. 3 times 6 is 18, plus the 3 is the 21. So this is going to give me 216. So I want you to do part C on your own. Again, pause the video and then double check with my work. So we should get 343 is 7 cubed. Okay, let's go down here to 50 cubed. So this is 50 times 50 times 50. Now we can do the same thing that we did for our squared and just do 5 times 5 times 5 and then put our zeros at the end. So we already know that 5 times 5 times 5 is 125, and then we have 3 zeros to put after that. So we get 125,000. Part E, we can do the same thing. We do 20 times 20 times 20. So we can just do 2 times 2, which is 4, and then 4 times 2 again is 8, and then put our 3 zeros behind it. Please be careful. I see really often people go 2 times 2 times 2. Oh, that's 6 because I have 3 2's. But you have to be careful because we know we have to do 2 times 2 first and get 4, but then we have to multiply that by 2 again. We're not adding 2, we're multiplying by 2. So that's how we get our 8, not a 6. Then we have 300 cubed. So this is 300 times 300 times 300. So we're going to have 3 times 3 first, which is 9. Then 9 times 3 is 27. Then we have 6 zeros after that to give us 27 million. Now we get to deal with some decimal forms of this. So we have 0.2 cubed. That's going to be 0.2 times 0.2 times 0.2. If you want to put in parentheses, I'm also fine with that if your dots confuse you. So just like before with the squared, we can actually just forget about our decimals for a minute and just do 2 times 2 times 2. Well, we know from up here that's already 8. But we know we have to have 1, 2, 3 numbers behind our decimal. And if I just put a decimal in front of my 8, that doesn't give me enough numbers. So I'm going to have to put 2 zeros in front of my 8 in order to have 3 numbers behind my decimal place. So on H, we can do the same thing. So we'll have 0.03 times 0.03 times 0.03. So we can do 3 times 3 times 3. We already know that's 27. But this time we have to have 6 numbers behind our decimal. Well, right now I only have 2, so I have to put some zeros in front to get this decimal, so that I have 6 numbers behind my decimal place. Our last one here for our decimals is 0.4 times 0.4 times 0.4. So just like before, we can forget about our decimals for a minute. And we can do 4 times 4 times 4. We know our first set is going to give me 16. And then we'll do 16 times 4 again.